motion last year to make the Saturday construction from 7 to 8. And however, there was one section of the code that was not updated to reflect that. So we're just cleaning that up. Very simple, just a little glitch. The second one here is creating a green building incentive program. So this is an initiative that's been a priority of the Village Council and the Environmental Advisory Committee that we've been working on with the Environmental Committee for about 6 months or so. These were workshopped with the EAC and the Village Council in 2025, and they're intended to encourage sustainable development practices within the village. So common green building incentives are property tax abatements or exemptions. That would be where you're discounting a property owner's taxes in order to offset the cost of green building incentives. Another one is expedited permitting and expedited inspections. So you'd be getting priority plan review and priority inspections. Another one is just a pure reduction of permitting fees, which, those can be kind of costly. So that's one nice carrot that we have. Another one is just offering pure cash grants or rebates. Another one is density and height bonuses. So what we've really honed in on, we unfortunately, don't have the type of money that, there's a lot of big cities like Chicago and Miami that offer really robust green building programs. They have a lot of money. They have a lot of money in their coffers. It's very easy for them to offer those. We don't really have that kind of opportunity. So we really think that the easiest thing to do is offer expedited permitting and inspections and reduce permit fees. So we've done a lot of research on what smaller municipalities do, and those are the kind of the more common ones that smaller municipalities are able to offer. One thing in Tequesta, I think everyone knows, it's density and height are dirty words here. That's a no, a hard no. So we're not really able to offer those for green building incentives, at least at this time. So we did talk to our building department, and they have agreed that they would be able to do expedited plan review and inspections for qualified green building projects. And we'll be able to offer this to single family homeowners and to larger commercial and multifamily projects. Generally speaking, you're more likely to see them on commercial projects. On single family homes, it's much easier when someone's doing a subdivision. So like when Coulter did Alton, they're able to offer that as one of the models and say, hey, you can choose from these 6 models. One of them is going to be green building certified. It's a lot more challenging for an individual homeowner that's doing a custom build to do it. So you're generally not as likely to see it. There are a few examples in North Palm Beach County. I think there might be, is it Meg? There's one on Jupiter Island, is that right? I think there's like one in Jupiter Island, but it's not done very frequently.
Green buildings?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So when we were trying to figure out how to work this permit reduction program, we also wanted to kind of look at the cost of certification. There's 4 big different certification types. I think everyone might be familiar with LEED. That's kind of the gold standard, and it was the first big green building certification that kind of came out. Those are the highest, and it's probably the most prestigious of all of them at this time. There's the Florida Green Building Coalition, there's the National Green Building certification, and then Energy Star. So this is actually different than just having like an Energy Star rated refrigerator. I think seems like most people have those. Energy Star has actually created their own rating system to make sure that the entire house is green certified. But as you see, it's a little bit lower of a cost, and the barrier to get certified is a little bit lower. Similarly, same thing on a commercial project, it can be pretty expensive to do LEED. The other ones are, a little bit less expensive. And so because of that, we basically created this kind of tiered approach. So the other thing is all these different certifications have different levels. So LEED has certified, silver, gold, and platinum. The Florida Green Building Coalition and National Green Building have bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and then Energy Star just has 1. So we kind of created this sliding scale that was based on the level of cost right? So on LEED, to be LEED Platinum, you're going to be spending a ton of money on really putting a lot of expensive stuff in a building to make it green LEED Platinum, and the certification itself is going to be expensive. So we're proposing, you get a 10% reduction if you met that, and then it goes down a little bit as it gets a little bit easier. So you're ideally incentivizing people to do the higher level of certifications. Does anyone have any questions on that? That's my last slide on that topic. Okay. The next one is construction site requirements. So the village building department has a construction site policy manual. Whenever people are building new homes or commercial projects, these are given to the homeowners. However, they're not codified. So if someone ever really pushed back on some of these requirements, it's right now it's just kind of a procedure. It's not actually codified. So there's a possibility we'd maybe have to back off of it. So just being safe, we put a lot of the things in there in the actual code. So one of them is to require a temporary construction fence. So you may notice when you see a house that's been torn down, temporary construction fence around it, and all the construction activities are required to take place. So the dumpsters, the storage of material should be in there. And if there aren't, that's a code enforcement violation. And especially would be a code enforcement violation now if it's actually literally codified. And then another one is requiring a silt fence on construction sites. So silt fences are those small little fences you see, and they prevent dirt and materials and rubbish from especially getting into the waterways. It's really essential for protection of our waterways. So these would be codified. And again, it makes it easier for us to enforce and take code enforcement action if ever needed. This last section here is minimum housing standards. I had put these into the code to kind of address issues related to people buying houses and converting them into rooming houses or migrant worker housing, or carving houses up and making them into Airbnbs, things of that nature. And I took Jupiter's code and really kind of put it in here. But I also didn't realize that we already have a lot of these in a kind of a supplemental thing of regulations that are in our code. So it's like an appendix. When I was writing this, I didn't even realize it was there. So I'm going to recommend that we strike this from the ordinance. I believe most of the stuff is already covered in this uniform property standards that we already use by reference via an appendix. And that is all I have for this ordinance.
Okay. Questions. And any questions for Jay on, okay, now this 03-26, we're going to just not.
We'll do each one individually. No, we're still doing this ordinance. It's just if you move forward with it, I would propose that you strike sections 14.201 through 14.212.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
We're still recommending the other stuff.
Okay.
212. Okay.
And
I have
questions for Jay.
Okay, on page 46 of 77, at the bottom, it says and we're dealing with the Green Building Incentive Management, and it's under section 14-94, and it's the last sentence on the page. If granted, the extension period will begin from the original 12-month deadline following the issuance of the CO, not from the date of the request is made. Extension requests must be submitted before the original deadline expires. So what will be the turnaround?
Can you just give me a second to read this?
I read it 4 times, and I'm like, I can't figure out, shouldn't you give them a deadline or a turnaround time to? We're giving them an extension period.
This is a 6 o'clock brain teaser for me. I apologize.
Pardon me?
So this is a 6 p.m. brain teaser for me. I apologize.
Well,
I was.
No, you.
Give me 1 second.
This ordinance took me several hours last night. This is the easy one.
And I wrote this one like a month or 2 ago, so I've not looked at it freshly.
They have to request the extension before the original deadline expires. So then we're going, if we do, we're going to give them an extension period. Shouldn't we give them a time limit for the extension period?
Yeah, it says for residential projects, it's a single extension of up to 6 months can be granted.
Commercial up to 9.
And for commercial, it's a 9-month extension.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, that was up there. Okay, all right. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, the next one is on page 49 of 77, and it's on the next page. It's number G. It says alternate forms of ground cover may be approved by the building official. Do we have a list of alternate forms of ground cover? Because there's so many different that some are poisonous now.
Well, they shouldn't be if they're talking about this subject matter. It wouldn't be allowed.
Don't know what people are going to do.
Yeah, I mean, it says they're supposed to be, so this is when you remove a temporary construction fence, you're supposed to bring a site to grade, till it, and plant it with ground cover, which includes sodding or seeding, and shall have irrigation and be maintained. And then it says alternate forms of ground cover may be approved. And that's just to keep it open-ended. So if somebody wanted to plant a really nice, some nice shrubs, we wanted to keep that option open. If you wanted to make a caveat that you say nothing poisonous should be planted, I don't think we would ever allow anything like that, because we already have a prohibited species list.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that.
So
yeah.
we would be able to defer to the prohibited species list.
All right. Okay, now here comes on page 53 of 77, and it's number 11, and it's section 14-203, responsibility of the occupant.
The owner.
Okay?
These are the ones we're striking.
Yeah.
I am looking, this is the one we're striking?
Yes.
Okay, I want you to know, we need, when I went through this, okay, 30 years ago, we had a major problem in this village dealing with composting. Okay, it was a major lawsuit. It's Hattie Siegel, it's Dover Road, the second house in, Hattie Siegel had a compost, her and her husband. Rat infested. It was disgusting. And then you have the 2 pieces of property next to her that were totally immaculate. This went on for years. So if you decide to do something like this, because I spent so much time on this last night, going through composting, because I remember years ago the Solid Waste Authority, because when I was on, my husband worked for the Solid Waste Authority, and when I was sitting here on the council, the Solid Waste Authority at that point had composting bins. They don't have them anymore because it created a problem. So they got rid of it. But we need to remember, because I'm not always going to be sitting here, to address composting, and it really, you need to be specific, because, I mean, they were just throwing trash out in the back. I mean, it was just the smell, but I spent so much, because the rats and the insects, it was just ridiculous, but yeah.
So we're fortunate that we don't have those type of issues now. When I used to work in North Palm, we had a lot more of those issues in a certain area. And so we're fortunate we don't deal with that. But as I mentioned, so we've adopted the International Property Maintenance Code in our code. It's an appendix. That's how I missed it. It's not technically in the code. So there is a section there that says rodent harborage, and all properties should be kept free from rodent harborage and infestation. And when found, they should be exterminated by approved processes that will not be injurious to human health. And so,
Well, maybe they.
so if there is a rodent harbor infestation, we can use code enforcement on that. I apologize for making you look at that.
Well, I mean, you had my whole thing going last night. Just brought back a lot of memories.
I apologize.
Okay, and I think, oh, here was this is my other pet peeve. Page 57 of 77, and it's item number I under section 14-209. Clothes dryers, exhaust systems should be independent of all other systems and shall be exhausted in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. Shouldn't the exhaust of a dryer be going outside and not in the attic? Because I can tell you how many homes have exhaust fan that their dryer goes into their attic.
True.
And it shouldn't be. It's a fire hazard. And it should be addressed here that it should be outside of the home and not inside the house.
But that.
Yeah, but again, we're-
Manufacturer's instructions would permit that.
It does, but if you're not specific in your code.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Well, it
Well,
says
that's
manufacturer's
Instructions, they
wide
say
open.
ventilate. Yeah, it's wide open. They're not,
Manufacturer could tell you.
I mean, there's a lot of people that have their dryers, vents going up into the attic.
Many condominiums do.
They should be vented to go outside of the building because it is a fire hazard.
So again, that's part that's
You might
gonna be,
wanna ask the fire department.
yeah, that's gonna be stricken, and whatever's in the International Property Maintenance Code is what we would have. So I would assume that it would not have anything that's a fire hazard, but I'm trying to look right now.
And that's my last question. Aren't you excited?
See, I thought you were going to be all interested in the construction one instead, so I called that wrong.
So we did. We did that one, okay. Okay, so, and we can also ask questions about the construction site and this one. And,
Public comment too.
right. I want to make sure everybody has asked any questions regarding any of the ones that you've gone over. Okay, and I didn't have a lot, but I did notice in some spots, as far as building official, the word he is used, and sometimes it's he or she. So it's done right in some spots, and but it's just one of those little.
That was Dylan. I know, I'm kidding. I tried making it gender neutral, so if
And
that
some
happened, that's an
were-
oversight.
I noticed a couple of them were right, and a couple were.
Those are Scrivener's errors that we'll clean up. Do they need to make that part of the motion?
We'll clean those up.
We'll clean up before it goes to council.
I know one of them's in the part we're striking anyway. And then I did have, it seems like I heard that the state was coming out with the mandates as to, that overrides everybody's on the artificial turf. But
What was it?
the state either is or has come out with regulations regarding,
Override.
which will override everything.
For artificial.
That's coming.
Oh, for the next.
That's part of the next wave of changes coming. The state actually, so the state last year passed a rule that said that on single-family properties under 1 acre, municipalities would be limited in their ability to enforce artificial turf. And then they directed the DEP to create specific standards for that and how that would be enforced. And so the DEP created those and they workshopped them. And I think they just got adopted in just like a week or two ago. But I've already looked at them and incorporated them into our old code. We've kept things where we could.
Okay.
There are some spots where we're preempted. Believe it or not, the state made things a little bit more restrictive in a few spots for like environmental purposes. So the DEP threw a few decent things in there, but for the most part, we already had a lot of the checks and balances in there for like the environmental stuff.
And regarding that, I was curious, the LEED program, it seems like George Gentile, maybe a year or two ago, he said that they require use of artificial turf. So I just,
Could you repeat that?
George Gentile, it seems like a year or so
Yeah.
ago, one of these projects
Yeah.
out here, he said that for the LED program, that they require the use of artificial turf.
It's less water intensive, yeah.
Yes, yeah, so that is part of this program as well, but it, we don't know what's going to be because if the state overrides everything,
Yeah.
then they'll have to go by what state requires, I guess. Okay, were there any more questions for Jay on any of these? And, okay, opening the floor to public comments. Maurice, if you'll state your name and address for the record again, please.
Maurice Perry, I live in the country club. I have a lot of comments on the minimum housing, which I will hold if you're gonna strike it, but I just wanted to make sure. Otherwise, I'd like to put them on the record.
Okay, we got 3 minutes.
No, you wanna hear all of them? If you're, is the motion gonna, I'm happy to be done right now.
Yes, we'll straight, I pledge.
You're gonna strike it, okay. Good, all right, I'll be quiet.
Thank you.
1 through
201 through, yes, okay.
Sorry, Marie.
No.
Okay. Okay, if there are no other public comments, we'll close the floor to public comments and any other board comments before we proceed. Okay. And so we'll take these one at a time. Okay, so for ordinance 03-26, how would you like to proceed? That's on the Green Building Incentive Program.
So staff's recommendation would be to recommend adoption of it as written with striking sections 14.201 through 14.212.
I'll make a recommendation
With that requirement
with,
of
as
dropping those.
Jay read.
Okay,
Second.
okay. And how do you, all in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Okay, and we will move on to ordinance 04-26. And let me see, that one is,
It is an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Tequesta, Florida, amending Chapter 22, Community Development, providing multiple recommended community development code updates. Amending Chapter 22 at Article 2, Community Appearance. At Section 2253, Powers and Duties, adding special exception review to the Planning and Zoning Board's responsibilities. At Section 22-55, authorizing notice to be published on Village's Public Notice Board, providing that each and every other subsection of Chapter 22 shall remain in full force and effect, providing conflicts clause, severability clause, authority to codify, effective date for other purposes.
okay, and Jay?
Okay, Jay Hupsch again, presenting 0426. So this one should be a little bit quicker. So a few years ago, the state created a new policy where it allows municipalities to do public advertising in what's called a public notice portal rather than in newspapers. It used to be very expensive for us. Every time someone did something, we'd have to spend $600 to advertise a zoning variance in a public newspaper. And so now the public notice portal is free. And then also residents can sign up for something that also has them where we have to mail them a letter and send them an email every time we put something on the public notice portal. So if you want to stay in the loop on things, you can sign up for that. So then rather than paying $600 or $800, we're paying, $4 for stamps. And in the village code, there's a lot of different sections that require public notice or that mention public notice, and it always says that we have to provide our public notice in newspaper. I simply amended it so that it reflects what the state statutes say, which is that we can now use the public notice portal for public noticing. This ordinance only does the change that's in Chapter 22 because that's Dylan has broken up all of our ordinances based on the chapter being updated. So chapter 62 and 78 will be coming in future ordinances. So that'll be part of those. The next one is something I think we've been talking about for a little while, which is to give the PZB the ability to make recommendations on special exceptions. So that's pretty standard in just about every other municipality I've ever dealt with. Ours are a little bit strange, where you guys will be reviewing a site plan that also has a special exception, but we have to say, well, you guys are just looking at the site plan, not the special exception. This will give you the ability to also look at the special exception and make a recommendation on it. Again, that's what everyone else does. It only makes sense if you're providing a recommendation on the site plan that you would also do it on the special exception as well. Mm-hmm. We did write it to exempt this unique situation where when we did our zoning overlays, we created the formula restaurants, formula retail, and formula businesses. Mm-hmm. And one of the things when we did that is required special exception on some of those formula uses. And the council and some people in the business community were nervous that, anytime a tenant change, like let's say three natives closed. Well, I mean, that's a bad example. Let's say Starbucks closed and Dunkin' Donuts came in. It would be a pretty long process for them to have to come all the way back through PZB if it's just a simple tenant change out. Mm-hmm. So we created a process where they could just go straight to council within 30 days. Oh. And so because of that, we wouldn't want to have to send them all the way back here, especially if there's not even a site plan associated with it. So that's how it's been crafted, and that's it for this ordinance.
That would be a like.
Yeah, it's a like for like.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
But if it was like Starbucks and then a dental office is going to move in, that'd be something different. That would be...
Correct. And it was more so when it's just a tenant change out, not a site plan.
Okay.
Right? So if someone came in and was like, I'm going to build an entirely new Dunkin' Donuts structure, then you have a site plan associated with it. It goes through the whole process and they go together.
Okay. And are there any questions for Jay?
I do. I have under section 22-53 powers and duties. If you go down to the last one, it says number 4 special exceptions, and then the next line it says 4-5. Shouldn't it just be 5? You have 5 underlined, so they probably did.
Yeah, that's right.
It could be a typo.
It's a leftover strike through. I think it's just a typo.
Oh,
Yeah,
I see.
yeah.
It is struck through. Okay, the 4 is struck through and the 5 is underlined. Okay, I see.
Okay,
I
so
see
it's
that.
probably a typo, so that needs to be removed 4 with the...
No, I think it's correct, Dylan, because
It's a different item.
this
Well, the
used
4 is
this used to be
struck through.
that used to be 4, but we put special exceptions at 4 because
Yeah.
the number the last one is which should always be there last in the sequence. So that used to be 4. It's no longer 4,
It's 5.
and that's 5. So it's underlined as 5.
And the 4 is
Yes.
struck. The 4 is struck through. It just happens to be a long
Okay.
bar with it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
And if there's no other questions, we'll open the floor to public comment. Okay, no public comment. Any further questions or discussion from the board?
I will make a recommendation to approve ordinance 04-26, amending chapter 22 of the community development.
Okay. Okay. So we're recommending approval of ordinance 0426. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. And then we will move on to number 5, ordinance 05-26.
Ordinance 05-26 is an ordinance of the Village Council of the Village of Tequesta, Florida, amending Chapter 22, Community Development, Article 3, Reasonable Accommodations, requiring Village Council review of reasonable accommodation requests, clarifying requirements for recovery residences, and requiring compliance with minimum housing standards, providing that each and every other section and subsection of Chapter 22, Community Development, shall remain in full force and effect as previously adopted, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date, and for other purposes. I'll turn it over to Jay. Jay, I'll just mention that I think this ordinance probably contains some references to the striked out provisions of our maintenance standards. So we may have to update this ordinance to reflect references to the IA, International Property Maintenance Code.
I think there's one reference to it, so we could make that great catch. I'll make that part of my recommendation at the end. Okay, so Jay Hupsch presenting ordinance 0526. So this one's a little bit complicated, so I'll try and explain it a little bit. Section 397487 of the Florida statute says that by January 1st, 2026, the governing body of each county or municipality shall adopt an ordinance establishing procedures for the review and approval of certified recovery residences within its jurisdiction. The ordinance must include a process for requesting reasonable accommodation from any local land use regulation that serves to prohibit the establishment of a certified recovery residence. And then in 2025, we adopted ordinance 1225, establishing a reasonable accommodation procedures that were in compliance with that. We crafted that and adopted it. However, that reasonable accommodation process that we adopted had a staff level review and a staff level approval. And some of our council people indicated that they would like to see us create a process where the village council had the ability to review this. And I highlighted that when I had been in North Palm Beach, we had a process there where reasonable accommodation procedures went to the village council for approval. And so we kind of went back to the drawing board a little bit and kind of mimicked what the North Palm Code says. Now I will backtrack a little bit and try and explain and simplify this process. So a reasonable accommodation is a change or adjustment that allows a person with a disability to have equal access to housing, employment, public services, or education without causing undue hardship or fundamentally altering the program or service. And so there are several federal and state laws that require this. The Americans with Disabilities Act, the Federal and Florida Fair Housing Acts, and the Federal and Florida Civil Rights Acts. So this actually dates back to 1968 with the Civil Rights Act initially. And so according to the state laws, when a municipality creates an ordinance for reasonable accommodation, it has to be consistent with state and federal fair housing laws. It has to establish a written application process for reasonable accommodation. It has to establish timeframes that a reasonable accommodation shall be processed and approved, and establishes minimum application requirements. Should also point out that things like recovery residences and the people that utilize those are considered people with disabilities by federal law. So by federal law and state law, a municipality can't exclude these people from certain types of housing, and they can request a reasonable accommodation in a situation where they normally would not be able to be approved in that location. So what we did is we took the state's laws and adopted a lot of the procedures that are in there. So we created an application that meets the state's requirements for the information you have to provide. You have to prove that you're a certified recovery residence and several other things. We also took something from the North Palm Beach Code, and that is that you should that the applicant is supposed to demonstrate that the proposed use is sufficient distance from other reasonable accommodation requests, so that you don't ultimately create a de facto social services district. And that is, a little bit of a gray area, but it gives the village a little bit of an opportunity to perhaps push back if there is a proliferation of reasonable accommodation requests in an immediate area. It also requires an applicant to provide a floor plan that demonstrates that a proposed use meets the village's minimum housing standards. So as Dylan astutely pointed out, we should actually change that to note that it doesn't meet the village's minimum housing standards, but it meets the International Property Maintenance Code as adopted in the village code. As far as the actual procedures itself, so the state law says that we actually have to approve these within 60 days of the submittal. So normally, if we're creating a process where something goes to council, we would try and get it to come to PZB too, but because there's such a really, really tight window for us to get this approved, we're having it go straight to council. It does give the village the opportunity to reset the clock, that 60-day clock we have, if we have to request additional information. So if someone didn't demonstrate that they met our housing standards, we would submit the application back and say resubmit that, and it resets the clock. It also allows the village staff and the applicant to appeal a decision that was made by the council to the special magistrate. And that prevents it from going straight to circuit court. And then somebody could appeal it to a circuit court after the special magistrate, if so desired. And then it also grants village staff the ability to revoke a reasonable accommodation if someone was in violation. So, one of the stipulations, you have to be a certified recovery residence. If someone lost their state certification, we would be able to immediately go in and revoke their reasonable accommodation, and anything of that nature. And with that, that is my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
I just have one. If on page 6 of the ordinance, page 74 of 77, you went from 60 days and you lowered it to 45.
It's 45 days to make the staff, for staff to make a written determination. So that's for staff to basically write a staff report. And because we would also then provide a written interpretation if we think it meets reasonable accommodation or if it doesn't. And so that's why that's there.
Okay, so that's where the 45. Okay, I couldn't. All right, that's my only question. Thank you.
Any other questions for Jay? I do have one. I'm not quite clear on the recovery homes. Are these residential homes or?
Yeah, so this would be when somebody could be buying a single family home and making it a single family home that's geared towards recovery.
Okay. And of specific ailments or?
Yeah, it could be for a number of things. It could be for drug rehab. It can be for alcohol rehab. Well, actually, I'm sorry. The state's criteria of a certified recovery residence, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Dylan, is specific to alcohol and drug rehabs, correct?
I'm not sure if the state definitions for recovery residents are specific to those particular ailments. There are definitions as to what constitutes a disability under the FHA and ADA, and they're fairly broad.
Would it entail, say somebody purchased a house and they wanted to convert it into a home to train people with Down syndrome? Is that allowed under this?
Well, it's not necessarily a question of whether it's allowed or not. It provides individuals a opportunity. If there is a government regulation that is preventing someone with a disability that meets those requirements, it allows them a process to request an exemption from that regulation, which requires a process and a hearing and a determination.
And that would include
any specific renovations to accommodate?
It has to ameliorate the disability. So whatever the exemption request is, you have to show that thing will help ameliorate this particular issue that qualifies under the FHA or the ADA.
And if it's in a residential area, are there limits to how many people and cars and trash and?
You are still allowed to enforce government regulations that relate to things that are enforced against anyone, regardless of whether they have a disability or not. Things like parking, noise, that sort of thing.
Okay.
You can still completely enforce other existing governmental regulations.
Okay.
Are we dealing with any of this right now in the village of Tequesta?
No, we're not.
That was my question.
We're not.
Because I heard before that.
No, we are for certified recovery residences. I mean, we have Futures, which is a rehab and a separate one. And there was a group that was looking to do something of this nature over on County Line Road. And it's a little bit of it. It's a little bit different from this.
That was a dementia facility, correct? Wasn't it a skilled?
Well, that was an ALF, assisted living facility that came in, but I'm talking about the ones that are, the ones that are right next to Casa del Sol.
Right next to it.
Oh, yes, okay.
There was a situation that came up there that we kind of dealt with.
And it's still going on now, I understand. Our manager is involved in that condo complex. So I don't know.
But we haven't, we haven't, knock on wood, seen much of an attempt of an encroachment into our residential. But having a process that requires people to go to council does make it a little more challenging for people to move forward with it.
And how does this affect like HOAs or condos? I mean, does this override their rules where that would not be allowed necessarily? Those are, I assume money-making. I mean, you're not in it for fun.
I think your HOA wouldn't allow.
Yeah, your HOA.
Your HOA.
Well, that's what I'm wondering if
But-
this would override
Yes,
any
exactly.
condos
Would it?
or.
Well, I mean, DeSantis has done a lot to override homeowners associations and condos. I wouldn't put it past them. But sometimes it's for our benefit.
Right, you don't want to.
I'm not being disrespectful to the man, but I mean, it's just, you just have to take it on a case-by-case situation, I think. And that's where you get into trouble.
So it's a federal law. The answer is I'm not sure off the cuff how that interaction plays out between a private individual and the private HOA. My guess would be they would still have to apply, or they would still have to abide by the federal FHA and ADA law. I mostly deal with incidents which involve the private individual with a disability petitioning the governmental entity, which is the most, that's mostly my intersection with this law. So to answer the question, I believe the private HOA would. I'm not 100% on that.
And if there's no more questions, we can open it up to the public. Marie, state your name and address again for us.
Marie Superior, I live in the country club. I have a question on section 22-112. And I get there's an annual inspection that is suggested, and it says the village may conduct a yearly inspection. I would recommend, if it's possible to do this, that we change that a yearly inspection to on a regular basis or as needed. And the reason for this is if there are problems with these facilities, which are businesses, in our community, we want to ensure that we are not limiting our right or hamstringing our right to address those problems immediately, since these will be right next to people's homes. Okay.
Okay,
So
thank
if
you.
that's possible. I'm looking in the direction of our lawyer.
It's a good idea. Thank you.
You are allowed to inspect
Okay.
these structures like you would any other structure for compliance with.
Yeah.
Well, if a neighbor,
But can we make it so
complains,
it's not
then
just-
they would have the right, the village would have the right to go and inspect.
Because this-
We'd have to look at it on a case-by-case
Of
basis.
course, yeah, of course.
I'm not sure a complaint from a neighbor would trigger a building inspection.
Wait, so if I may, in this section, it's addressing the state and local laws, so their compliance with that, so it's not just building, it would be,
Oh,
it
it's
would be
all-
noise,
it's all-
anything,
all
any
regulations.
problem parking,
Well, I mean, like
for example.
code enforcement.
Code enforcement, right, so I just wanna make sure, instead of saying you can only have one, if we have a place that is being operated in a way that's not helpful or not nice to their neighbors, that we can make sure that we're getting to be able to inspect it to address the problems promptly rather than leaving somebody in a bind.
Take a look and adjust that.
If the board wants, you could make a recommendation to have legal staff and village staff evaluate whether that's legally viable to do.
Yeah,
To do, the problem is to do them randomly could be seen as discriminatory. And so I think that's why this one says on an annual basis, so that it's kind of like supposed to be more of a routine annual checkup rather than, constantly monitoring one of these. But we can look into whether or not that's legal.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, other communities have had problems with like the, drug recovery.
Yeah.
They start stealing from the neighbors. They sleep in the backyard, and I mean, but I could complain about that, and then code enforcement would act.
But to Ms. Superior's point, I know that our code enforcement and generally police departments would like the ability to look at it as much as possible. So if it is
In that case,
legally doable, we're fine with you making that a recommendation, so long as it's something that we can legally do without being overly discriminatory.
It's a
But even if
sensitive issue, and we're happy to look into it and buff that language up if
Great, I
possible.
appreciate that, thank you.
But even if you can't, just to be clear, nothing about this prohibits you from code enforcement action.
Right.
Or from people calling the police for
Right.
items that demand law enforcement action.
Correct. But the inspection is generally when you're going inside. So in North Palm,
Oh, I
they would
see.
do an
Okay.
annual inspection. It'd be the fire department, and they were in there looking for things.
Right.
So,
Okay, if we're no more public comment, we'll close the floor to public comment. Is there any more comment from the board?
Typically, they're tied to like the yearly.
Jay or Dylan, any?
and just my last comment would be that if you are going to make a motion to adopt it, that you make it so that we change the provision. Give me 1 second here. Sorry, I lost my place.
She's got the number. What was the number of the section?
It's
22-112.
It was 2212, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was 2212.
well, yeah. Hers is 22-112, but then on 22-113-9, we noted that they have to provide an interior floor plan
Yeah.
that's compliant with the village's minimum housing standards.
Okay.
That should be changed from minimum housing standards to the Appendix B International Property Maintenance Code.
Okay,
Change it to the international.
Property Maintenance Code. You can also say as read by staff.
yes, okay.
Oh, that's cool.
Can I make a recommendation as described by staff to
Yes.
recommend approval?
Okay.
Right.
And is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All in favor of recommending approval of 05-26 with the,
Amending chapter 22.
as far as what the staff said? All in favor? Any opposed?
Nope.
Okay, motion carries, thank you. Any questions or?
No further comment. I do expect us to have another meeting next month with additional ordinances coming your way.
Okay. If I can say one thing towards what Marie asked about the population, I think it said in the first one, like 1,000 by the 2024 or something like that. Just that place up on County Line Road where they wanted 96 townhomes, I mean, that could have easily added 400 people.
I know, I was thinking that. too.
Thank God, and
Yeah,
so there's,
yeah.
that would have been almost half.
Going to.
So it's, and who knows what neighborhoods might get torn down and they build multifamily homes, so it,
And
it's,
the other thing you have to think of too is that in the future, you're gonna have, like they're dealing on the island, they come in and they buy something, they tear it down and, and then it gets bigger.
yeah, and if we're servicing just north of County Line Road in Martin County, I mean, we have no control over what they might allow to be put in too, so I guess it's possible you could have
Yeah.
quite a few more people that we're servicing, but.
I mean, we've had people approach the church for our
I bet.
vacant land.
Wow.
Well, I also think just the bus stop in our neighborhood, there's a lot more kids than there used to be in our neighborhoods too. So I think you can't also forget that, as older residents move out, younger families with children move in.
Oh, yeah.
The Village of Tequesta, absolutely.
I used to be the youngest person in my cul-de-sac, and now I'm the oldest.
Okay, so if we're.
Before you adjourn, I almost updated you on this, but now you prompted me to update you on this. We did just recently get a development application in for the county line property, the Rood, and they have scaled back their plans from the 96 townhouses to 24 single-family homes. So there was a deed restriction that limited it to 50 houses. So they're now well below that with 24 houses. It's going to go through our development review committee. No telling how long that'll be, but you probably won't see it until sometime this summer at the earliest. It's going to be a back and forth. And then also the Tequesta Country Club was approved last week by council.
Great.
So everyone's excited about it, and thank you for all your input on it.
When are they going to start on Seabrook?
On Station 11, they are, well, the interior work is pretty well underway, but the exterior,
I know the village council didn't approve, they haven't decided on the color.
they did decide on the color.
Oh, they did okay, the last time I saw it, they didn't, so I didn't look at the other.
They like the blue, so they went with the blue. They like the idea of trying to match the rec center and have a little bit of pop of color there.
Okay.
So they went with the blue.
Okay.
Any news on Jupiter Island?
What about Jupiter Island?
Development Fontainebleau.
Oh,
There,
there.
we have a vacant building
Yeah.
that we live in.
So the units there did not sell. So they're back at the drawing board and considering a combined project for both properties. There's a group that's working on that, and they are potentially doing a conceptual presentation to our council in March with just a very preliminary concept plan. I haven't seen it yet, but we'll see what happens.
I mean, that one had the high end with the kitchen, and they said, oh, well, nobody will be cooking in the building. They go, really? Give me a break. Okay, that would be
It's
interesting.
strange looking over there. Though.
Yeah, it was.
And right now, the building across is virtually vacant. Like the doors are
Oh, really?
people are going in and out of the vacant building. It's
That's
not
weird.
a good situation.
Oh.
I don't know.
But-
Anything you hear though.
We'll keep you in the loop as that one moves forward. But it's a really complicated real estate transaction too. I'm not privy to all of it, but I know that there's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes. So, but we have let them know that they're going to have to work with the Beach Road Association, nearby condos, workshop it with the council and the community at a conceptual presentation. So it'll be a collaborative process.
They did in fact build a new staircase.
That's good.
So they will have a staircase that will, be in front of the vacant building.
That's good.
So I guess it's good. I don't know what they're doing. They built an office and then they vacated that. So it's just strange. Thank you.
Okay, well, if we're ready.
I make a motion to adjourn?
No, not to adjourn.
We want to adjourn, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I said. I make a motion to adjourn.
I second that.
All in favor?
No, I think we should stay till next month.
Any
Yes.
opposed? The motion passes. Good night,
Thank you.
everybody.
Okay, Jean, what are your stuff on?
What?
Just you. Let me know if you need